Have you ever come across a children's show called Jolly Roger? Do not let your kids watch it. My 8-year-old son, Ethan, is one of those kids that is very hard to keep entertained and to keep occupied. Usually after school, he'll beg me to watch some TV, so I let him watch it for an hour. But after around 10 minutes in front of the television, he's already bored. He will then move on to colouring in or some other form of arts and crafts, and that will sometimes keep him occupied for an hour or two. This was the standard after-school routine that was in place with Ethan. Well, that was until we discovered Jolly Roger. We first discovered the television show Jolly Roger when I was scrolling through a popular kids streaming service. We'd already scrolled through many different kids shows, all of which Ethan wasn't interested in. But when the small image with big red writing that read Jolly Roger showed up on the screen, Ethan immediately said he wanted to watch that show. In my opinion, it looked like it might have been aimed for kids a bit younger than Ethan, but when I suggested that he chooses another show, he furiously stomped his foot and insisted that was the show he wanted to watch. I did have some work that I needed to do that day, but I decided that I would watch the first episode with him just to make sure that it was okay for him to watch. This is good parenting. I was fairly certain that it would be, as it was under the kids category on the streaming service, but I guess I'm just a bit of an overprotective parent. So we both sat next to each other on the couch and began to watch the first episode of Jolly Roger.
Yeah, stunning.
A loud and happy song filled macaroni pepper. A loud and happy song filled with trumpets and drums started playing as a man walked out onto the screen. He came from inside of a large pirate ship, which I guess is where the show got its name. He walked up close to the camera as the words Jolly Roger flashed up on the screen. The thing I noticed most about this man, though, was not his funny-looking hair, it was his smile. It was possibly the biggest grin that I've ever seen on anybody before. His lips were opened wide, revealing perfectly straight white teeth underneath. The corner of his lips was almost up level with his nose, and it almost looked like his lips were being pulled back in order to smile as wide as he was. The man began to talk. "Hello, kids, how are we all today? I hope that we're all happy, happy, happy," he said in an overly excited and over-the-top voice. "My name's Jolly Roger, and I hope that we can all have a good time today. We'll be singing, we'll be dancing, and of course, we'll be having fun."
Terrifying.
At this point, it seemed like the show was definitely going to be appropriate for Ethan. In fact, he was probably getting too old for this type of show. I did continue to watch the episode, and it continued pretty much how you'd expect. Jolly Roger pulled out a guitar and sang some nursery rhymes. Then he began teaching some dance, and then he moved into the arts and crafts portion of the show. In this episode, he was teaching the kids how to make a small pencil holder that the kids could take to school. Once the pencil holder had been built using an old toilet roll and some stickers, oh, that takes me back. Oh, a bit of arts and crafts, yes, please. Jolly Roger then said it was time for him to go. "My time with you is now at an end," he told the viewer, his large smile still present. "But before I do, we can't forget to sing the Jolly Roger song." I love a song.
You too.
Jolly Roger then began to sing. "Every day is happy, so don't be a grin dodger, so smile big and smile raw wide, just like the Jolly Roger." Jolly Roger was right, though. He did smile big and he did smile wide. That was the one thing that didn't change throughout the whole episode. He never once stopped smiling. That big wide smile never disappeared from his face. Once the episode was finished, I decided that it would definitely be safe for me to leave Ethan alone to continue watching. I had some work to do and Ethan was more than happy sitting there watching the show. Which I guess was strange. Normally he'd sit there and watch one episode of a show before he grew tired of it and found something else to do. But there he was. He was sitting perfectly still on the couch, eyes glued to the television. This was a good thing, I thought. It meant he was entertained and would allow me to get a few moments' peace to get on with work. I got up from the lounge and told Ethan I'd be heading to the kitchen, but he didn't respond. He was just focused on one thing, the television. I didn't think too much of it and left the lounge room and headed into the kitchen and began to do my work. I lost track of time because before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. I hadn't heard a peep out of Ethan, which was unusual, so I guess I got distracted by my work and had forgotten to check on him. I take it back as a bad parent. I got up from the seat in the kitchen and went back out to the lounge and found him. He was still sitting in the same spot where I'd left him, his eyes transfixed onto the TV. I went and grabbed the remote and paused the show and told him it was time for dinner and that he would have to watch more of it tomorrow. He didn't protest or get mad. He just said, "Okay," got up from the lounge and headed into the kitchen. As he was leaving the room, I glanced at the TV and saw that he was already on to episode 6, which is way more than he'd usually watch in one sitting. We ate dinner together like normal, and then I spent the rest of the night helping Ethan with his homework. It was a pretty normal night. Everything seemed to be fine, until it was Ethan's bedtime. I sent him to brush his teeth, even though he claimed he didn't need to and his teeth were fine. And, well, we all know that kid's a fucking gross.
They're absolute dirty rotters.
Dirty, rotten bastards. And while he was brushing in the bathroom, I went to his room to get his bed ready for him. I needed to tuck his quilt under his bed, so I bent down to tuck in. As I bent down, I noticed something sticking out from under his bed. It was only jutting out an inch, so I couldn't quite make up what it was. I reached out and grabbed it and pulled it out from under the bed. It was only small and it was quite light. It took me a second to realise what it was. It was a small toilet roll. Over the top of it was a thin layer of tissue paper which was blocking one end. I felt something rattling inside, so I looked down into it, and there was one single tooth.
Oh dear.
It was because he's not brushing his fucking teeth.
Yeah,
They're
they're
all
rotting
falling
out
of
his
head.
fucking face. He's got rickets.
Rickets! It was only a small tooth, so I knew that it had probably belonged to Ethan. At this point, I heard some footsteps behind me, and so I turned around and saw Ethan standing in the doorway, one hand behind his back. You didn't tell me that you lost another baby tooth. When did you lose that? I asked him.
Has he got a gun?
Motherfucker!
Motherfucker! And then he shot everyone.
He shot everyone because he didn't want to brush his fucking teeth. When did you lose that? I asked him. Only today, he replied. I pulled it out myself.
Oh no.
Oh no!
Oh no.
Oh no, thank you. What do you mean you pulled it out yourself? I asked him, growing concerned as to why he'd pull out his own tooth and place it into a toilet roll. Ethan looked at me for a second before replying. Because Jolly Roger told me to. He told me that the magic wouldn't work if I didn't do it. It was part of his arts and crafts. He told me that I needed one of my teeth and I also needed some of your blood.
Oh, that is vile.
Some of my blood... But before I could finish the sentence, Ethan suddenly stepped towards me and pulled his hand out from behind his back. He was holding a razor blade.
Oh, it's worse than a gun.
I don't... yeah, it is. It is, because that sounds
sinister.
rank. Yeah, it's sinister. I don't even know how he managed to get it. I always keep them out of reach, but I guess it didn't matter how now because he was holding one and he was walking towards me. I dropped the toilet roll holder and reached out my arm to grab the blade off my son. He then swung his arm towards my hand and I felt pain sear through my index finger. The razor blade had left a long, narrow cut along the top of my fingertip. Ethan then reached out his hand that was holding the razor blade like he was giving it back to me. I snatched it off him and began to berate him. Maybe I was too harsh on him. I don't think so. I think this child needs to go.
If you get sliced by your kid, I'd be like, you are not just fucking grounded and putting you up to Battersea.
Yeah, you're going, what, to the dogs though?
Yeah. Yeah. You're going Battersea immediately.
Yeah,
if you slice me...
You're living outside the house. You won't be living with me.
Yeah.
You'll be living in a locked
Kennels.
facility. Yeah, kennels. Maybe I was too harsh on him, but I gave him a strongly quite loud talking to. He seemed upset, like he was remorseful for what he'd done. I then put him into his bed and left the room, grabbing the toilet roll holder that now contained Ethan's tooth and was smeared in my blood. I went out of Ethan's room, slamming the door behind me. Something he said was beginning to worry me, though. Jolly Roger told me to. I didn't really know what this meant, but I knew that there was a way of finding out. I spent the next couple of hours watching through the episodes of Jolly Roger. Everything I watched, though, seemed normal. It was a lot of singing and dancing, and through the arts and crafts section, he only ever made innocent little crafts, like you'd normally see on a kids' show. There was no mention of teeth or of drops of your parents' blood. I really didn't know where he got all that from, because it wasn't in any of the episodes I'd just watched. I was just finishing watching episode 6, and I could hear Jolly Roger singing like he always did. Smile big, smile wide, just like Jolly Roger. And his big smile flashing towards the camera. Just as he sang the words, just like Jolly Roger, that's when I felt it. I distinctly remember the feeling of 2 fingers, one on each side of my mouth, forcing their way inside of my mouth and then pulling upwards. I felt these fingers inside of my mouth pulling my lips, forming a large, unwanted grin. I didn't know what it was, and when I felt it around my mouth, I couldn't feel anything, but I knew that there was something there forcing me to smile. That was 3 days ago now, and I can still feel the never-ending smile on my face. I can still feel the fingers forcing my face into a large, painful smile. I now think back to that old saying, smiles are contagious. But this is one smile that I do not wish to pass on to anybody, so now I'm cautious of anyone I see smiling. Maybe they're just happy, or maybe their kid also watched an episode of Jolly Roger.
Wow.